Hello, lovelies. Long time no see. This is Christine with Thrival and Bliss Festation. Let's see, today is Thursday and it's Leo season. So we had 2 new moons in Cancer, so everybody was kind of emo for a while. A lot of crying, a lot of being upset and so forth, but also a lot of like mothering and reparenting and so forth. So I thought we would do a little bit with reparenting. So for my own personal story, which might help someone and may not, I don't know. And I apologize to my parents up front for being this up front, you know, on the internet. My father grew up, it's my understanding, to be pretty poor. Like his father worked for Chrysler with the boiler situation, like keeping the car factories the right temperature in the dead of winter in Detroit so that the paint would dry appropriately on the higher end vehicles or something to that effect. And then my grandmother, I think she was like a factory worker at some point, and then, you know, eventually became a nurse and did a few other things to the point where they eventually had money. But when my father was young, they were poor. Because of some other things, some family situations where I guess my grandfather's parents had money, but the girls got taken care of, but the boys got kind of booted out at 18, which I think may have also happened to my father, but I'm not clear on that. But anyway, so we grew up, or when I was born, my father was in medical school, so we were poor, like basically just this side of food stamps poor. You know, and actually government cheese is the bomb diggity. I can attest to that, and I remember it well from being a kid. But my father was in medical school when I was born, and he, you know, became a doctor. He worked his ass off, like was always gone, always busy, always going, was gone for days at a time. What else he might have been up to, who's to say? But always gone. So as a little girl and as a daddy's little girl, I internalized like, why is my daddy not here? Why am I not getting love and attention? Does he not love me? Am I not worthy of love? And so I'm seeing that, and have seen that pop up in other things where I'm like constantly seeking validation and attention as a form to know whether or not someone loves me. And also the whole like, you know, mommy, I got an A on my test. Am I worthy of love now? Or I did this thing that you wanted me to do. Am I worthy of love? Or, oh, I did this thing. Like, are my parents going to disown me, or am I going to end up in a milk carton somewhere? And so, you know, so I seek validation, outside validation, when really we should all seek our validation from inside, because we're the only ones who know like what's good and what's bad, and we should respect that in ourselves. And according to Bashar, with the laws of 1, 3, 5, 7, and 11, something like, law of 1 is like we are all one, and then the 3 is the masculine and feminine together is 1 for the Trinity, and the 5 laws of something else, and so forth. I'll get into that later. But the whole thing is, if you exist, then you are worthy of existing, because if you weren't worthy of existing, then you wouldn't exist. So we are all worthy. We are all enough. Even though throughout our childhoods and other situations in our lives, we've come to wonder if we're enough, which is one of those deep-seated things that like gets into our relationships and causes problems and makes it hard for us to find the right job and so forth, because we don't know or feel that we are worthy enough to deserve love. So, yeah. And then, let's see, what was another one? Also, I discovered I have a slight case of agoraphobia, which is like, you know, fear of going outside, fear of people, that kind of thing. And I didn't even realize I had it to the extent that I had it, because I was lost in a farmer's market in the middle of Detroit when I was like 4 or 5. Like, I was holding my father's like pinky finger, because he's really tall and had really big hands. And I think I was eating a bag of grapes or something, because I'm a fruit baby. And in the middle of the market, and I guess he said that he would be right back, but I did not hear him say that. I might have been off in another world, you know, little kid, surprise, off in another world, or I was just so happy eating my grapes that I was in heaven and wasn't paying attention. So at some point I let go of his hand, and when I turned around, he was gone. There were people everywhere, all these adults. I was just this little kid, and I was freaking out. And then I had a panic attack. I'm absolutely sure of it. I was crying, heaving, like just like couldn't even talk, just tears rolling down my face. And this little old white lady saw me crying, and she came over to me and asked if I was okay, and if I was there with anyone, and so she like called out for my dad, and he was there, and I guess he was only a few feet away, and he told me, like, I told you I'd be right back, because he just had to go check something. And yeah, so, but in that moment I was like a kid on a milk carton, you know, for those of us old enough to remember kids on the milk carton, the lost ones. Yeah, so it taught me that I'm not safe outside. I'm not safe by myself. I'm not safe, you know, like all these other things. So yeah, so these things pop up, and they cause problems in relationships and in other things. So they're definitely things to look at. So we don't need to seek outside validation, because the mere fact that we exist means that we're worthy, and that's huge. And just because our parents had other things that they needed to do doesn't mean they didn't love us, because we are loved. We are unconditionally loved, especially by our parents. Even those parents that couldn't quite show it, or didn't know how to show it, or had other things going on to keep them from being able to show it. We are all loved. We're all loved by someone. If not, you're loved by Source, and we're all connected to Source. So what else do you need, you know? So yeah, that's my morning musings about reparenting. Is if we can go back and figure out why we do the things that we do, and what might have triggered those things. Little things like getting lost in a farmer's market like at 4, you know, I mean, it happens. There was another time where I got locked outside of the house on like a porch that was on the 2nd floor, and I was so terrified that like my vocal cords froze up. Like I was trying to scream out for help, and just air was coming out and no sound. So, you know, I'm obviously one of those people that needs a whistle if I'm ever lost. But seriously, like these little things happen, and they're no big, they don't seem like that big of a deal. I mean, in the moment they seem like a big deal, but you forget about them. You go, oh yeah, that one time I got locked out, or my dad lost me. I think my dad like lost my little brother at the beach. We actually lost him in Disney World, for crying out loud. Like he was there, he wasn't there. We went to the front, he magically appeared. It was all this big thing. So, you know, kids get lost. Things happen. One turns one way, one turns the other way. That's why they put leashes on kids somewhere back there, which is probably a terrible idea. But anyway. Yeah, so reparenting, it's definitely possible. Like, we just got to figure out what happened, why it happened, what our perception was, and what may really have happened, and maybe what outside perceptions were that happened. And actually, that brings me to another point. So normally, this truck going by, hang on, loud, 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 okay, sorry about that, we're outside, it happens. So yeah, so astrology, there's apparently 2 different kinds. There's tropical, which is the normal one, which is where the planets are in relation to where you were born at what time and place and date. And then apparently, so that's tropical. So apparently there's another version called Sidereal, or Sidereal, S-I-D-E-R-E-A-L. Spelling out loud was never one of my strengths. So yeah, Sidereal is 23.5 degrees ahead, because it's based on where the planets were, time, place, etc., from a fixed point in space, rather than the from the perspective of Earth. So yeah, so according to tropical, I am an Aries Sun, 19 degrees, which means I, like, you know, have to chop the head off of something to grow the new thing or whatever. And rising Leo, which is, you know, like proud lion, hot, happy, haha, let's go party. And then moon Capricorn, which is like I have to climb the mountain, but I also know how to flow, like work smart, not hard. But in Sidereal, apparently I'm a Pisces sun, which I guess explains my wild imagination. And I'm a Cancer rising, which apparently means I need to learn how to mother, and that I do mother. So Cancers, they not only mother you and take care of you and all about the home, but they can also, if you come to a Cancer with a problem, and this was explained by Sage Goddess, so I have to give Athena credit for this, she's amazing. If you come to a Cancer with a problem and say, oh, this person's doing this, or oh, I've got this problem with that, a Cancer will go, okay, well, tell me what happened. And then a Cancer will show you the other perspective. Like, well, if you were in their shoes, then it might have looked like this. And they'll give you a whole new perspective of how and why something happened, so that you can move forward with that situation with less charge. that makes any sense. So yeah, I totally do that. So, you know, maybe this whole like sidereal thing, there may be something to it. But at least no matter whether it's tropical or sidereal, I'm still Leo North Node. So that still means I get to be cool. Astrology is cool, human design is cool, all those things are awesome. QHHT is cool. I did finally break down and do the certification of that, and it has blown my mind. Like, oh my God, Dolores Cannon just, I'd heard her name and heard her name and heard her name and heard stories and stories, and then finally put the stories to the name and then like watched her stuff, and wow, like she just, like, you know, if what she did is true, which I think it might really be the thing, and she's basically proven reincarnation, the existence of extraterrestrials, the existence of interdimensionals. You know, she's basically explained what happens after you die before you come into the next life, which is wild. Just all kinds of crazy stuff. And like the things she was able to explain, like why you have these aches and pains that are messages that are trying to tell you something. Like if you've got neck and shoulder pain or back pain, it's because you've got too much weight on your shoulders. And if you've got knee and ankle and joint pain, then that means you might be moving in the wrong direction. Or if you get hit in an accident, like I got rear-ended like a year ago, and that was because my guides were trying to tell me to move forward, for crying out loud, which is wild, right? So yeah, and like all these things that we've contracted for ourselves to teach our souls lessons. It's, we're definitely gonna have to make another video about that. So yeah, so we may have figured out a way to heal the world and save humanity, and maybe even take out some of these systems that are keeping us from being able to reach our potential and have this heaven on earth that was created for us. So yeah, I hope you guys have a lovely day, and I hope this video came out okay. We just kind of winged it, and yeah. I love you. Mwah.